So, this is what we're going to be holding. A quick review, since we haven't been here for a long time. We were discussing the Beinani. So the first level of the Beinani we were discussing is easy to understand. What does God want from you? God wants for you to behave the right way. That's what God wants. Yeah? So you can be a Beinani. Your entire life, you don't want to behave the right way, but you behave the right way. This is what a Beinani is. Shalom Aleichem. A Beinani is a person who might his entire life not want to do what God wants, but ultimately, in action, he does what God wants. That's a Beinani. And the Alter Rebbe says, first of all, this is what's required, but second of all, you're going to have a problem. Such a Beinani will have a problem. Why? Because if you don't have your intellect and emotions together with your actions, your entire life you're going to be fighting. It's going to be hard. We're not sure you're going to succeed. Besides the fact that you're supposed to also intellectually and emotionally jive with God. It's not just action. God wants also your intellect and emotion to work. But it is possible, he says, the first level of a Beinani is to do the right thing even if you don't want to, your entire life. Then it says, but since I also want intellect and emotions, so this is, he taught us the first way to become a Beinani. What's the first way to become a Beinani? The first way to become a Beinani is you need to contemplate, you need to meditate, you need to learn about godliness. The more you learn about godliness, the more intellectually you understand God. So intellectually and emotionally, you're going to agree with your actions. So since anyway now you want to do what God says, this is what a Beinani is. He wants to do what God says. That's the second level of a Beinani. And for that, it requires a lot of effort. A person needs to learn to such an extent that he changes his emotions. He needs to learn to such an extent that he likes tefillin more than he likes a Ferrari. And that's hard. Most people like Ferrari more than they like tefillin. They like steak more than tefillin. Yeah, emotionally, if I give you a new car, yeah, you get excited. If I give you a new prayer, oh, I know one more prayer I need to say now. Or if I give you a new pair of tefillin, you don't get excited as it's some ice cream, let's say. Okay, let's put it this way. So this is the second level that we discussed. After that, the Alter Rebbe, since he knows us, he tells you, you know what, even if you're going to come and you're going to start contemplating every day for 10 hours, regular person who comes and contemplates 10 hours about godliness, that's what he learns. Not necessarily after 10 hours of contemplation is he going to like tefillin more than steak. He still is going to like steak more than tefillin. Yeah? With all the contemplation, most people in the world, that's the way it's going to end up. A person, let's be real, the first thing that a person thinks about when he wakes up in the morning is what?
It's coffee.
Either coffee, but even before the coffee. Yeah, coffee. So we have one coffee, one bathroom. I'll tell you the third one. Should I get up? Oh. I wake up. Should I get up? That's the first thing that comes into a person's mind. Should I get up? That's the thing. That's the first thing that goes into a person's mind. Yeah. The first thing is not God necessarily, and this is we're talking about after many hours of contemplations for many, many years. Yeah, that's the way it is. So then the Alter Rebbe told us, don't worry. Even though it's not considered as you have emotions towards godliness, because intellectually you want tefillin more than God, God is going to consider it, even though it's just intellectually and not emotionally, because you would like to be there. God will consider it as if you are doing the mitzvah of tefillin with love and fear of God, with true love and fear. That's what we learned in Perek Yud Zayin. In the end of Perek Yud Zayin, last time is what we learned is there are some people who he calls a Rasha. For them, in order to break, they are not capable of even getting to that level. In other words, even intellectually, they don't want to do the right thing. Even intellectually, forget emotionally. Even intellectually, they still don't want to do the right thing. Even after contemplation and they learned and everything else, they still don't want to do the right thing. They might be a Beinoni, they might do it, but they don't want to. Yeah? At least the second level of the Beinoni, he wants it intellectually. Maybe emotionally he's not there, but if you ask him, would you like to be like Rabbi Akiva? Of course. Of course I like to Rabbi Akiva. But every time I put on tefillin, I'm not Rabbi Akiva. Yeah? But I want to be like him. But every time you put on tefillin, you're not excited by the tefillin. Yeah? This guy doesn't want to be like Rabbi Akiva. He says, Rabbi Akiva? In other words, you tell him about heaven and people are sitting and learning, you know what he's going to tell you? Boring. What am I going to do in heaven? Sitting with all these guys? I'm not interested. I'm interested in casinos, in parties, in this. This is what interests me. This is boring. I'm not interested. So he says, such a person, what does he need to do? We learned it in the end of, that's the last part. He needs to break himself. Without breaking himself, understanding how lowly he is, coming to the conclusion that he's a very lowly person, just like a drug addict coming to hitting rock bottom, it's not going to happen. He needs to hit rock bottom before starting learning, because otherwise all the learning is for naught. It's not going to do anything, not intellectually either. He needs to get to rock bottom. That's what we said on the last time. And we are on page 75. We're going to end chapter Yud Zayin and start chapter Yud Chet. I'm just going to end it quickly, chapter Yud Zayin, and then page 75, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines from the bottom. He's describing here, it says over there, Vehi Pchinat Tshuva Tata'a. This is a level called Tshuva Tata'a. That person needs to do tshuva before he starts learning. Learning by itself is not going to be enough for him. He needs to break himself. Le'alot hei tata'a. It means that in Yud K, Vav K, the name of God, there's two heys, and tshuva means to return the hey. Shuv hey. You return the hey. Tashuv hey. That's what tshuva means. You're returning the hey, the last hay, to its source. Lehakima menifilata. You need to raise it from its fall. What does it mean? He was born a human being. That's the way he was born. A human being at least appreciates Rabbi Akiva. He has an appreciation. Maybe he cannot be a Rabbi Akiva, but he appreciates. His hay fell to such a low level that he doesn't even appreciate intellectually Rabbi Akiva. You tell him, you want to be like Rabbi Akiva? He's going to say, boring, I'm not interested in this. I'd rather have women and wine, much more interesting than Rabbi Akiva. So he needs to raise this hay, to become a human being again. Otherwise he will not, there's no learning, he's not interested in the learning. Shenaflai lachetziniyut. His hay fell into the, call it the dirty shells. Shehu sod galut hashchina. This is what it means, exile. Exile, right, the way we are right now, we actually believe and understand that Trump decides what's going to happen in Israel. Whether you want it or not, that's what you believe and understand. That's what exile is. America runs the world, not God runs the world. America is. And we need, whose favor we need? It's more important, to have Trump's favor or God's favor? What? That you're saying it, but what do you believe inside? What do the Jewish people? They believe that Trump, is the favor. He says, what are we going to do if America doesn't help? The Hainu. And how did that happen? How did it happen that the person is not interested to be a Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Akiva trusts God, of course. We don't trust God, of course. Yeah? How did it happen? The Hainu, it happened כשאדם עושה מעשה אדום, when a person does the deed of Edom, the nation of Esav. Edom is Esav. Edom is also dam, blood. The more we run our lives with the animal soul, this is the Maaseh Edom, every time we give up, we give in to our animal soul. By the way, do you know how many times you give in? How many times a tzaddik, even a tzaddik or a Benoni, let's call a Benoni, how many times does a Benoni give in to his animal soul? All the time.
All the time.
See, that's what's confusing.
He doesn't
choteh. But he gives in to the animal soul. Why does he eat?
Because he likes the Geshmi.
Why does he eat?
Because he likes the animal soul.
He eats because it tastes good. He's not going to add salt to the food. Yeah? But he wants the food salted. This is the Benoni. He's not going to add salt to the food because he's eating it just for health reasons. But if you ask him, what do you prefer? Yeah, and if the food is salted, he's going to enjoy it. He's going to enjoy it. See, he goes to sleep when he's tired. He puts a coat on when he's cold. Every time the animal soul wins, that's what happens.
Well, you have to change his nature because his nature is to enjoy food.
I know.
You have to change.
That's exactly what you say. Whether he likes it or not, it's going to happen. Wow. He does Maaseh Edom. He also puts on tefillin. Wow. It's good, so it balances it out. But whether he likes it or not, a 60-year-old is more physical. He is more away from God than a 20-year-old. Because he had that much many meals than a 20-year-old. Wow. A 20-year-old had only 20 years worth of food. A 60-year-old had 60 years full of food. And this is a Benoni. We're talking about a Benoni. We're not talking about somebody else who's not a Benoni. Yeah? His Benoni, he's having this. So what does he do? We do Maaseh Edom. מוריד וממשיך לשם בחינת וניצוץ אלוקות. He takes his godly soul with him when he does those actions. המחיה את נרן שלו, that gives life to his soul. המלובשים בו בנפש הבהמית, that get dressed in the animal soul. מהקליפה שבליבו, שבחלל השמאלי. המולכת בו באותו רשע, ומושלת בעיר קטנה. So every time he does something wrong, this is even if he doesn't do something wrong. Imagine if he actually sins and he eats pig instead of what he's supposed to be eating. He takes his godly soul now and he takes it down over there. And because of that, now, intellectually and emotionally, he doesn't want godliness anymore. So I'm going to help. He doesn't want it. He's not interested in connecting to God. He's interested in connecting to physicality. That's his nature. He doesn't even want to be a good guy. He just wants to have fun. ונרן כבושים בגולה אצלה. His soul is captured in exile. And what happens when he does tshuva? What does tshuva means? He breaks himself. He recognizes, I'm not doing the right thing. At that moment, when you feel the pain of I'm going against God, I'm going against the godly spark that God gave me, and I'm taking it down to the stupidities, when it pains him, that's tshuva. The pain is the tshuva. בקרבו ונשברה רוח הטומאה, then the hold of the animal soul on the godly soul breaks apart, vayitpardu chulu, and they separate. היא קמה מנפילתה וגם ניצבה, כמו שכתוב במקום אחר. It falls from its level, and then it can stand up again, and then you can do the two levels of Beinonim that we discussed before. The Beinoni that contemplates and feels it in his heart, love and awe of God, and the Beinoni that doesn't feel it in his heart, but he wants it at least intellectually. But being a Rasha, not interested in it, don't work on learning Torah, it's not going to help you. Break yourself. Do tshuva first and then learn Torah. Okay. So after we learned this, we learned two levels of the Beinonim. From this chapter, Perek Yud Chet, to chapter Chaf Hei, from chapter 18 to chapter 25, he's going to start discussing a second way you can become a Beinoni. See, the two levels of Beinoni that he described until now, you know what it requires? It requires a couple of things. It requires hours of meditation, both ways. Requires hours of meditation. The first level requires hours of meditation and then have love and awe of God. The second way also requires hours of meditation, and you're not going to get love and awe of God, but at least intellectually, yeah, you're going to get there. Now, if you ask most people, is that feasible in your life? And when we're talking about hours of dedication, we mean hours of learning every day. We're not talking about in half an hour of learning, you're not going to come to love and awe of God. You need a lot of contemplation, a lot of thinking, a lot of deep thinking. It's not going to come easy. Yeah, it needs a couple of hours every day. Most people are going to say, so this is not for me. I cannot become a Beinoni. I cannot be not this level, not the second level. And even if I'll be a Rasha and I do tshuva, still, after tshuva, what do I need to do? Hours of contemplation every day. I'm never going to do it. So chapter 18 to chapter 25 is going to give us a way to be a Beinoni without meditation. Now, when I say without meditation, it requires a little bit, but it's not the meditation that I'm talking about before. It's a different level of meditation. But you can become a Beinoni without it. Because most people are going to say now, I will never get to that level. You know who gets to that level? I don't know. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He can afford to learn Torah all day long. Most people work. Most people have a life. They have children. They have a wife. They have things. Even if they want to dedicate, they have a business. Even if they want to dedicate hours of learning Torah, they don't have it. What about them? They can't be a Beinoni? A Beinoni, it says in the beginning of Tanya, everybody can be. So this is going to be chapter 18 until chapter 25. He's going to give us many ways of how a regular person without hours of meditation can still be a Beinoni. Okay, that's where we're going. And I'm going to repeat what I just said now until chapter 25. There's many levels of it, many ways to think about it. And he's going to give us all those ways. We're going to go over it many, many times. It will sound like a repetition. It's not a repetition. Each one, I'm going to mention why is it on a different level from the other person before. Okay, so let's start. Perek Yud Chet. We are in chapter 77, page 77, chapter 18, Perek Yud Chet. ולתוספת, on the English it's 76. ולתוספת ביאור באר היטב מילת מאוד. But it says, look what it says in the Torah. The Torah has a verse that says, שבפסוק, God is saying to the Jewish people, Moshe is saying to the Jewish people, כי קרוב אליך הדבר מאוד. Moshe says, it is very close to you. To what? To serve God like a Beinoni. It is very close to you. Until now, was it very? Maybe for Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, it's very. For most people, it's not very. For me, it's not very. So how are you saying very? So now I'll explain to you why it says very. Very means it's easy also for people like us. Not just for Rabbi Akiva or Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. So he continues and he says, Tzarich lida ne'emana. You need to know, and to know it inside, to know it good, to know it 100%. That what? Ki af mi sheda'ato ktsara, that even somebody that doesn't have such a big knowledge of God, he's not Rabbi Akiva, he's not a genius that can sit down and learn 10 hours a day. Be'ediat Hashem, with the knowledge of God, ve'en lo lev lahavin begdulat ein sof, and God didn't make him with emotional to be enthusiastic about commandments. He doesn't have the heart for it. He's interested in steaks, not in commandments, not in learning. Some people are not interested in learning all day long. And some people not interested in doing God's favor all day long. What about them? So he says, for them it's also very close. For them it's also very close. How is it close for such a person? בגדולת אינסוף, להוליד ממנו דחילו ורכילו, in order to contemplate God, in order to have love and awe of God, not even במוחו, we're not talking about the heart that don't have the capability. They don't even have the capability to intellectually have it. In other words, to want it. They don't even want it. Even for them it's easy to be a Benoni. You're saying, for a person who likes casinos and girls and wine, it's very easy to be a Benoni? That's what he says. So he says, yes, even for them it's very easy. Not just for the learned, the guys who likes learning, it's easy. Also for these guys it's easy. And now we need to understand how. אף על פי כן, nevertheless, קרוב אליו הדבר מאוד, it's still very close to such a person, לשמור ולעשות, to God, to fulfill all the negative commandments, that's לשמור, ולעשות, and to do all the positive commandments, כל מצוות התורה, all the commandments in Torah, including which one? ותלמוד תורה כנגד כולם. Also learning Torah. Why does he say also learning Torah? Because one of the commandments is every second of your life where you're not doing, sustaining yourself, going to work, or doing a mitzvah, what are you supposed to do? Learn Torah. You have free time, learn Torah. It says, even for a person who's not interested in learning, it's easy for him to always do it. It says, really? That's a very hard statement. I understand if the guy is a genius, he likes learning. Maybe for him it's easy. But a guy who's not interested in learning, he's not interested at all. He likes whatever he likes. For him, he says it's also easy. And he's going to give us ways how it's easy for him now. בפיו ובלבבו ממש. And when I say it's easy, he's going to perform all Torah, all mitzvahs, in his heart and in his mouth. And the more important, it is in his heart also, not just in his mouth. When he learns Torah, he's going to learn it with enthusiasm. But we just said he's not interested. It's still easy for him. How? מעומקא דליבא באמת. He's not just faking it. He'll rather be in the casino. He's not a fakery. He's not a learned person. He doesn't like any kind of learning. And he still will want to do this. From the depth of your hearts, in truth לאמיתו, בדחילו ורחימו, with true love and awe. How is he going to do this? Where is he going to get the love and awe? So here we're going to get introduced to something new that we didn't discuss. Until now, when I tell you you have to have love and awe of God, you're going to tell me the only way to have love and awe of God is how? You have to create it. And how do you create it? By contemplating godliness. That's the only way to have it. Love and awe of God. Over here, you don't need to create it. Why you don't need to create it? Because you already have it. And since you don't need to create it, you already have it, you can just inflame it. You already have it. Maybe it's extinguished. All you have to bring now is a fan. Everybody that did a mangal in Israel, that did barbecue in Israel, you remember the guys with the mangal, you go with the fan like this on the coals? That's all you need to do. You need to go to your heart, you need to go like this with the wind, and the coals are going to catch. It's already there. The flame is there. It's just dull. It's just, the flame, if you touch it on the outside, it's cold. But inside, there already is a love and awe of God. Where did it get there? If you didn't create it. How did it get there? So it says, She'i ahava mesuteret. This is the hidden love shebelev klalut Israel, that is in the heart of every Jew, shehi yerusha lanu me'avoteinu, that we inherit from our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We're going to stop over here, just have a quick explanation. What does it mean? Where can we see it? So first of all, the only nation where a person says, I'm atheist, but I'm still Jewish, is the Jewish nation. You cannot be an atheist Muslim. You cannot be an atheist Buddhist. But there's millions of Jews today around the world. Let's take, you probably remember Pearl, the guys that Daniel Pearl, that they killed him. You remember him? Wasn't a religious person at all. Didn't keep Torah, didn't keep mitzvahs, on his lips. He didn't believe in Judaism, right? But when he died, what did he say? Shema. He says Shema, and he says, my father was a Jew, my grandfather is a Jew, and I am a Jew. If you would have asked him that question, what are you? A year before, you would ask him, do you believe in God? He would have told you, I don't believe in God. It doesn't exist. These guys are crazy. They believe in, I don't know what. But when it came down to it, yes. Look, throughout the ages, many people gave their life for the system they believed in. Many Christians died for Christianity. Many Muslims died for Islam. Many Buddhists died for Buddha. Yeah? And many Orthodox Jews died for Judaism. I understand why they died for Judaism. They believe in a system. But a Muslim that doesn't believe in Muhammad and doesn't believe in God is not going to be willing to die for Islam. A Christian who says I'm an atheist and makes fun of Jesus is not going to be willing to die for Christianity. In Judaism, we saw, unfortunately, in the Jewish history, millions. We're not talking about 5, we're not talking about 10, we're not talking about tens of thousands, millions of Jews who were atheists. I'm not talking about millions of Jews who believed in the religion. You can't count them, they believe in something. Millions of Jews who claim they don't believe in God, that were willing to die for Judaism, even though they don't believe. That's the inherited love that every Jew has to God. We'll discuss this love much more later on, so I'm not going to discuss it now. But we're going to go deeper into this love later on. So he continues, שצריך לבאר, we need to explain, ולהקדים תחילה באר היטב, and to understand first of all, on a very good manner, שורש אהבה זו, where's the root of this love? Where exactly? ועניינה, and what is the purpose of this love? ואיך היא ירושה לנו? And how does it become inherited to us? Because love is not inherited. Love is one of the things you can inherit. If I love a baseball team, that doesn't mean that my son is going to love a baseball team. Yeah? If I love a certain person, that doesn't mean that my son is going to love a certain person. Over here we said, I understand why Abraham loved God. He knew him. But his grandson doesn't know God. Why should he love him? He says, whether he likes it or not, he's going to love him. So we need to understand how he inherited. Love is not something that is inheritable. ואיך נכלל בה גם דחילו. We'll also need to understand in order to serve God, love is not enough. You also need to have awe of God. And in that love, there's included in it both love and awe. So he's going to give us headlines. והעניין, he tells you, כי האבות הן המרכבה, it comes around because the forefathers were the chariot. They were not regular people. Abraham was not somebody who loved God like we love God, like we love tefillin. The love of God became Abraham. Let's put it this, he loved God to such an extent that it mutated him. That he became mutated. This is why we say Abraham is the first Jew. There was a mutation in Abraham because of the great love of God that he becomes a lover of God. Not just a human being. Until a certain time he was just a human being. And then he became a human being who loves God. Which means that now, and that was part of his DNA, which means that now all his kids are going to be human beings who love God.
So,
yeah.
Abraham is the first to have a godly soul then?
No.
No?
Very good question. Abraham is the first to take that godly soul and mutate it in his DNA.
Well, God did it, not Abraham.
Of course. Yeah. But Abraham was the first person who it happened to. והעניין כי האבות הן המרכבה, ועל כך זכו, and this is how they merit, להמשיך נרן לבניהם. They mutated, and therefore, since they became different, the neshamas became different, infused with godliness, now all their kids are going to be infused with godliness. There's many questions over here, which I'm not going to go into it. How come Ishmael didn't get it? How come Esav didn't get it? Other class, other time. Ad לבניהם אחריהם, ad olam, forever. How did they get it? מ10 ספירות דקדושה, from the 10 ספירות, the 10 attributes of holiness, שבארבע עולמות הביאה, that in the 4 worlds of אצילות, בריאה, יצירה ועשייה, each one of us is made out of these worlds, Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, and you can see it in people, by the way. A neshama that comes from the world of Yetzira is an emotional neshama. Emotions talk to it more. A neshama that comes from the world of Bria, a neshama that comes from the world of Bria, his neshama is more a thinking neshama. Now we are all a creature. We are all emotional and intellectual. But you can see people. Some people are more intellectual. Some people are more emotional. Yeah? So no matter which world you come to, some worlds are you're not emotional and you're not intellectual. We're going to discuss about this world now. You do the right thing. Why? Because I don't know. I do the right thing. You call it simple person. You tell him what to do, he does the right thing. A simple person keeps Torah much better than all the intellectuals, the so-called intellectual, and much better than all so-called people who love God. Why? Because you tell him, he doesn't understand God, he doesn't love him, but you tell him he does what you told him to do.
So is he a Benoni?
He can be a Benoni. He's going to give us the tools for even such a person to be a Benoni. He's going to show us that no matter from which world you come from, even the lowest world, you can still be a Beinoni. That's what he's going to go through. לכל אחד ואחד כפי מדרגתו. Each and every person according to his level. וכפי מעשיו, and according to his acts. ועל כל פנים, and nevertheless, אפילו לקל שבקלים, even to the lowest of the lows, the guy you find in jail, the depraved people, you call it depraved in English? How do you say it? Yeah, depraved. ופושעי ישראל, the criminals, נמשך בזיווגם, when they are having a child, since the child comes from all the way from Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they're descendants of them, nefesh de malchus de asiya. At least comes the lowest level, as we're going to say it before, what it is, the lowest level, and that lowest level that the guy just does because he was told to, no other reason. Yeah? That level can be Beinoni. Even such a person can be a Beinoni. שהיא מדרגה תחתונה שבקדושת העשייה. That this is the lowest level in the world of actions. ואף על פי כן, מאחר שהיא 10 ספירות קדושות, since it is made out of 10 holy attributes, היא כלולה מכולן. In it, you have everything. Let's just explain it very, to give a mashal for it. Think of the Jewish people, to give an allegory. Think of the Jewish people like one body. A body of a person. So let's take my body. Right here, my body. Everything in this body came from the same place. What's the same place? My father's drop. There was my father's drop. Everything over here came from my father's drop. You know what's in here? Many worlds. I have 4 worlds within me. I have the world of, let's call Bria. Yeah? Bria is the world of intellect. In other words, I'm able to think. Right? I have the world of emotions, the heart. I love steak and I'm afraid of fire. Yeah? Love and awe. I have these two, the world in me. I even have the world of actions. But even in actions, let's say, so I have a human form in me, which is my brain. I have the animal form in me, which is my emotion. My emotion is just like an animal. That's what makes a difference. That's what an animal is. It's an animal that has emotion. I have the world of plants with me, which is my bones. My bones grow, my heart grows, my muscles grow. And I even have the world of inanimate object in me. My nails and my hair. They're inanimate. They're like a stone. That's what they are. They're nothing more. I have all this world. And nevertheless, all those 4 worlds, all those 4 things in me, my mind, my heart, and my nails came from the same drop. Now, when he said that, actually, this is written in the Gemara. This was written 2,000 years ago, more than 2,000 years ago. Yeah, they didn't know about DNA. Over here, he's going to say you should know that in the actions, in the lowest form, in the nails part of me, there's everything. There's also intellect and emotions. It's hidden there, but it's there. Today, we know that it's true. How do we know? When you want to clone somebody, you can clone it from your nails and from your hair. Yeah, the DNA of the person is found in it. This is what he's saying. So even though you're saying you don't love God by action, that's not called love and awe. Just an action cannot love. He says in the action itself, in the nails itself, yeah, you still have the love and awe. This is what he says. It is included from everything. גם מחוכמה דעשייה. It also has the intellect. שבתוכה, מלובשת חוכמה דמלכוס דאצילית שבתוכה, חוכמה דאצילוס, שבה מאיר אור אין סוף ברוך, ממש כדכתיב השם בחוכמה יסד ארץ וכולם בחוכמה עשית. So in other words, the same way that my nails are connected to me, and they're connected to me, to my body, and they're also connected to my emotions, and they also have the DNA of my brain, right, inside, they're actually connected to my father's seed, and by getting connected to my father's seed, they're connected to my father's brain. And you can go back and back and back and back and back until you can go back to the source of all neshamas, to the source of the neshamas that started. This is called the Or Ein Sof. This is called the Or Ein Sof, and all the neshamas, every act, even the actions, comes from that. ונמצא, and we found, כי אין סוף ברוך הוא מלובש בבחינת חוכמה שבנפש האדם. And this is how you find that God himself is dressed in the soul, in the brain, in the intellect of the soul of man. יהיה מי שיהיה. It doesn't matter who is going to be. So he says, so if God is inside the guy's brain, why does he want women and wine and he doesn't want godliness? Just the same way that the nails doesn't feel that he's connected to you. To such an extent, if the nail or the hair will have a choice and you ask him, do you mind if I've cut you off the source? The nail and your hair will tell, I don't mind at all. I don't care. I'm dead anyway. Yeah? In truth is, by connecting to us, he continues to grow. He gets something. And the truth is that in him, there's intellect also. How do I know there's intellect in him? Because you can take the DNA from that hair and you can make another baby. And that baby will be an intellectual person. It has it inside. So it has the same thing. It doesn't matter what his level is. Even over here he's shouting, I don't want it. Just like the hair says, I'm dead anyway. I'm not attracted to godliness. I'm not attracted to music. Maybe your heart is attracted to music, but not the nails. The nails couldn't care about music. Maybe the brain wants thinking, but not the nail. יהיה מי שיהיה, no matter what it will be, מישראל, ובחינת החוכמה שבה, עם אור אין סוף ברוך הוא המלובש בה מתפשטת בכל בחינת הנפש כולה להחיותה, and the godly essence, let's call it, is getting dressed up in every level of the human, whether it is be nails, his heart or his brain, מראשה עד בחינת רגלה, from the head until the leg, כדכתיב החוכמה תחיה בעליה. Just like it says that wisdom gives life to its owners. And we can see it also in life, in actuality. What does it mean? He puts in brackets. ולפעמים, and sometimes, ממשיכים פושעי ישראל, you're going to have a male and a female who are both criminals, who are both lowlives, who are both nails. Sometimes they can give birth to a neshama, to a soul, which is very high. How is that possible? Because even though they are nails, in the nails you can have a neshama, which is a brain. Just like we said, the DNA of the nail has hidden in it all the parts of the body. ממשיכים פושעי ישראל נשמות גבוהות, very high levels of neshamas, שהיו בעמקי הקליפות, that were deep within the klipa, כמו שכתוב בספר גלגולים, like it is written in the book of reincarnation. Okay. We're going to stop over here. I know that this last section was very, very hard, and I went through it very, very quick on purpose. The main reason why I did it is because the next 7 chapters, that's what it's going to go through, to explain what I just read. So there's no point in it giving you 7 chapters. Right now, we're going to go in detail, one line by one line, when we're coming up to that. So, any questions?
The last thing you said was the Gilgulim.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us more about Gilgulim. Because that's...
Okay, just for since the question came up, I'll give you very, very short view, איך קוראים לזה? תמצות, איך קוראים לזה תמצות באנגלית? Summary, a summary about Gilgulim, about reincarnations. What is it? What is reincarnation? Every neshama comes down to earth in order to do all the commandments and learn all the Torah that it's supposed to learn. And it is going to reincarnate itself all the way until it does everything. So that's why they tell you, if you don't want to come back again, you better do all the commandments that you can right now, because that's why that's why our neshamas are down here. Just to have a nice view, there are no new neshamas anymore, except it says Mashiach will have a new neshama. There's no 99.999999999% of the people who are living today are people who didn't do the work in previous reincarnations. Yeah? And they come again and again. You should know that most men are far away from... Some of us might come here again because we're not going to do our job again. How do we know this? Women are the last reincarnation. Women that you see down here on earth, all the women form, used to be males. All of them used to be males, and the last reincarnation is always going to be a woman. Always. Why? And this is part of the reason why women do not have so many commandments as men, because they don't need to fix so many things. Another thing, by women, we're going to discuss it in the second chapter, you're going to notice that women believe in God without learning Torah. They don't have to have the learning part in order to have a connection to God. They believe in God naturally. They're more refined. In other words, the neshamas, their souls before, already did most of the work. All they need to come down here is for small little things here and there. This is why women are so sensitive to... I'll give you a simple thing, and all of you will agree with it. There. Think about the way you have a relationship with your wife, and think about the way the wife has a relationship with you. With men, it's animalistic. We don't care. We care only about the physical pleasure of the act. We couldn't care less, unless we work on ourselves to have a spiritual union there. Forget spiritual union. And you can see men's behavior. They would put their into any hole. They don't care. Yeah, that's what they are. Women would never do such a thing. They want a spiritual connection. They're not looking for a physical connection. Although these days and age, some women became like males, but I'm talking about 99% of the women the way it should be. Women are looking for spiritual connection. And the same thing with the entire life. This is what they do. So this is what the neshamas, in short, a quick summary of neshamas. We don't have a whole...
That's why the women, they sack your neshama.
Very, very good. See, this is why... he's correct. But I'll explain what he says. In Hebrew, they have an expression, tafsiki lachforli. What does it mean, tafsiki lachforli? It means stop digging. Because women will always dig. Do this, and why don't you do this, and why don't you do that, and why don't you do this? It's a common, because our actions, she sees it without life. In other words, we're having connection with the woman, your connection. See, I'll give you an example. You have 20 guys going to fish, right? They fish. They have the balls and they get the thing. They can spend a week fishing. Is there any discussion about anything emotional, or do you know if the guy is in pain, if he's going through a divorce, if his child is sick? You come back from a week with the guy of fishing, and your wife asks you, how's George? You say, it's very, very good. I just spent a week with him. So she tells you, you know he's getting divorced, and his child is sick in the hospital. So, well, I have no idea. We didn't discuss it. What did you do for 1 week? You know what we did? We did physical things. Men, they couldn't care less about the spirituality of the person. They don't care if he's in pain. They don't care. And if the guy starts to tell him that he has a problem with his wife, says, why are you telling me? Leave me alone. I don't want to hear it. This is the way we are. We're not interested in the spiritual part. In order to actually listen to him, it's hard work for us. If the guy opens up and starts crying, you don't know what to do with yourself. You know, it says, please stop crying. What are you doing? Are you crying to me? What am I, the kotel? I'm not, people, men, you can see they're physical act. Now, in order to elevate, for a woman, it's easy. She sees somebody is in pain, your best friend, she sees he's in pain just by looking at him. She said, can't you see that the guy is in pain? Why don't you go over to him? And not only that, that guy doesn't want to talk to you. Men don't want to talk about the problems with somebody else, usually, unless it's really, really bad. I'd rather keep it for myself. I need to give him. Be a man. What's a man? Do something about it. You notice? What does a woman do? Don't do something about it. Let's talk about it. In other words, 1,000,000 times they told me in yeshiva, this is very, very important. When a woman comes and talks, don't give solutions. She doesn't want to hear solutions. She wants to vent. She wants to talk. If your friend comes and talks to you, you know why he's talking to you? A guy? Because he wants to help. Give me a hammer. Give me something. Let's do this. A woman just wants to talk. And you know how many years it took me to understand this? I still don't understand it. I just do it because I know this is the way she is. She wants to vent. She wants to talk. That shows you that they are much more refined creatures than us.